The San Antonio Spurs improved to 4-0 in the preseason following a 16-point win on the road in Indiana on Monday evening. Let's go through some player observations, and I'll talk about some team observations from this game. First off, let's begin with Stephon Castle, who made his preseason debut here with just 2 preseason games left. So he did start at point for the San Antonio Spurs. Castle had a good night, ends up with 14 points on the night in just 19 minutes of play. Let's see here. Three rebounds, 4 assists, 2 fouls, 3 steals, and 2 turnovers and 1 block here in these in his first game. So let's first talk about his scoring. So again, showed his ability to finish on the break. Victor fed him an alley-oop pass where he dunked it down. He had some plays finishing at the rim with his hesitation, being able to get fouled, drawing some contact. And then he also made 2 threes, 2 of 4 shooting from outside. Again, it's a very small sample size. It's just one game, but I did note that he was looking for those catch and shoot threes out of those 2 out of 4 shots, and the 2 that he made were a little bit closer to the 3-point line. And I did note that he went up with the smooth motion here, with that hot motion when he caught the ball. He had some nice assists as well, setting up some of his teammates, made some defensive plays as well, as I noted there with the 3 steals. But on offense specifically, you see his level of reading the floor, where he can be on the strong side with the ball, maybe like up near the arc, and he'll just zip a pass right all the way across the court to somebody who's wide open, in the corner, and that's a very hard read to make. But Castle, is the kind of player, has that kind of passing vision where he can make that. So again, Castle makes his return. As far as where he's at in the rotation, he did start at point guard. Again, I always thought that he would start whenever he was healthy and ready to play. So whether or not De'Aaron Fox is ready for opening night, I do expect Stephon Castle to be there in the backcourt, whether he's starting alongside Fox, at shooting guard, or if he's going to be running point guard until Fox makes his return. But Stephon Castle did return to the team. Let's talk about Victor Wembanyama, who had a monster night for San Antonio here and played his most in the preseason. Well, not really his most, but the most, I guess you would say, in quarters. So let me explain that. So Wemby ends up with 27 points on the night, 25 minutes of play, which again isn't a lot of minutes. 11 rebounds, so double-double, 4 assists, 2 fouls, 3 steals, and 7 turnovers were the big issue for him there, outside of all the other positives that I mentioned, and 1 block. So Victor was a monster in the paint. The Pacers had no answers for him. He ends up with 12 paint points. A lot of those where he was throwing down some really ferocious dunks where he just kind of catches in the post, one-handed dunk down with his left hand. There was another play where he kind of just bodied Isaiah Jackson. He falls back and Wemby just goes up and dunks it with 2 hands. He had a play where he brought the ball down court and basically running point, and he finished a layup where he got fouled. There was also a play where Harrison Barnes in the second half feeds him. He gets good position in the post. He doesn't even put the ball on the floor, Victor. He just kind of spins to his left and knocks it in off the glass. He also continued to get fouled, so he ends up making 7 free throws on the night. And then he also went 2 of 2 from outside. Very notable kind of shots. One of them was a step back 3 against Obi Toppin, and the other one was a pull up 3 where he's dribbling down court and nobody basically steps in to stop him. Again, he had his way there. A few of his makes also at the rim came because of his ability to tip in missed shots from his teammates. He had a nice block. I don't remember who the player was. I think it was Neesmith. I think it was Aaron Neesmith. He had a reverse layup block off the glass, and that ignited a break on the other end. So again, the big issue for Wemby, like I mentioned, was the turnovers. Though some of those were because he was facing a lot of double teams. The Pacers defense is very good, and they're good about kind of attacking someone when they have the ball in their hands a little bit too long, or when they're just going to swarm you. And so that was a bit of an issue for him. Were the turnovers. So again, that was probably the only downside of his game, aside from all the positives that I mentioned. But again, another good game for Victor as far as the reason why I said that he played his most is because usually in these preseason games he only plays in 1/2 or in 3.5 quarters. But tonight he played in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and then a little bit of the fourth quarter, at least 2 minutes to get up to those 25 minutes. We also saw he and Luke Kornet play in that the Wemby Luke Kornet lineup together for 3 quarters in this game. So again, that definitely looks like something Coach Mitch Johnson wants to use in this upcoming season. Just 2 notes I wanted to mention about their lineup is one of the sets on offense that they went to was a double drag screen, which they have done before, to allow Dylan Harper to get downhill. And then also on defense, one thing I noted is that Kornet's kind of guarding the big man on the other team, which allows him to kind of play that drop defense and kind of anchor the paint. This allows Victor to either be in the corners where he can kind of move around a little bit more freely on defense, or up top at the perimeter to make a little bit more plays. And you see him communicating to all the players about where to be. So again, that's just notable that kind of where he and Kornet are going to be on these whenever there's that Luke Kornet Wemby kind of defensive scheme out there. So again, Victor has another strong game here in the preseason. All right, let's move on to Dylan Harper, the rookie, plays in his second preseason game, comes off the bench here, running the backup point for the Spurs, ends up with 11 points on the night in 22 minutes, team high 8 assists, three fouls, 2 steals, and 2 turnovers, as well as So that was Harper again. Another good game for Harper in the minutes that he was out there. So 6 points there at the rim, based off of his 11 points. He also made a corner 3 on one of his attempts. One thing I noticed is how the Spurs are trying to really use his speed to let him get by the defense and kind of figure out whether he's going to set up teammates or get to the rim himself. And that's something I noticed with how high Luke Kornet or Wemby are setting some of their pick and rolls for Harper. They're kind of setting them up into the logo area for this game, the Pacers logo. There was also a possession where Kornet and Harrison Barnes set up a double screen for Harper, basically like a double drag screen near half court. And that is something that the Clippers used to do back when Chris Paul was in his prime. They would do that with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, which allowed Paul to kind of get by the defense and kind of figure out what he wants to do with that ball, whether he wants to drive it in or kick out to someone. And so that's a play that I saw the Spurs run. I think they're gonna do that, those kind of actions for Harper to again use his speed to their advantage, so they can get him going downhill, which really puts pressure on the defense and either opens up outlets for his teammates or for Harper to get to the rim. He had a really nice finish where he went to his left side and finished with some contact, there at the rim. What else did I want to say? Yeah, regarding his passing, the 8 assists. So again, he had a really good connection with both Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. Again, every time he fed them some passes, they were able to make a lot of their shots whenever they were coming out of Harper's hands, and so that helped lead to his 8 assists there on the night. But again, another strong game for the rookie. Let's move to Luke Kornet off the bench. Let's see here. He ends up with 16 points in 22 minutes, 7 rebounds. Again, 3 notable offensive rebounds, 1 assist, 2 fouls, and 1 steal in this game. So just some of my notes on Kornet. Again, a problem for opposing teams in the paint. Very soft touch around the rim. Finished a few layups. Had some tip-ins whenever his teammates missed shots. And then also he had 2 like hook range shots, like floater range shots. He also was forced to take a late shot clock pull-up jumper, but he did make it, and also he is able to get to the free throw line. And I just wanted to note how Kornet's just a really good screen setter, and his the point guards that are playing with him, they're really learning how to be patient and wait till he starts rolling to use him as an outlet if they need to, or if he takes out their defenders, then he's able to those players are able to get downhill, such as Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper. All right, Keldon Johnson, even though he had been starting in every preseason game, now that Castle's back, now that Vassell's back, it's looking more like he's going to end up coming off the bench. So he did come off the bench in this game, likely to be his role for the season. He ends up with 14 points on the night off the bench in just 20 minutes of play. A perfect shooting night, 5 of 5 from the floor, 3 of 3 from the outside. 3 rebounds, 1 assist, one foul, and 3 steals and 2 turnovers for Keldon. So again, what I've talked about over and over for him is just how, whenever he does take those shots, whenever he's out there, he just needs to be impactful, bringing the energy, crashing the glass or, scoring the ball, but efficiently. And so we definitely saw that where, he ends up with 14 points in the night. A big part of it was, like I said, the outside shooting. He's not really forcing a lot of shots. A lot of those are open threes that either Dylan Harper's finding him for, or Stephon Castle are seeing him out there on the perimeter. And at least he's not being shy right now. And he's actually taking them and making them very well, obviously, as we see here. So again, Keldon had a strong night, 14 points. And then lastly, Julian Champagnie just continues to hit from 3, ends up making 3 of 5 outside shots in this game. Scores 12 points as a starter. That is something notable, the fact that he started, because I do, even though he's been starting the preseason, I do think that if De'Aaron Fox isn't ready by opening night, I think that this is probably the starting 5 you might see on opening night against Dallas. Is Castle at point, Devin Vassell at the 2, and then Champagnie at the 3, alongside Barnes and Wemby. And so I think that until De'Aaron Fox gets 100% healthy and he's back in the lineup, I do think that we're going to continue to see Julian start there. And like I mentioned before, I think Julian's fine, either coming off the bench and playing well, or starting and playing well as well. Now I want to talk about the rotation that the Spurs use. So they basically, yes, they use a 9-man rotation, but it was almost like an 8-man rotation. So basically, like I mentioned, the starters were Castle, Vassell, Champagnie, Barnes, and Wemby. And so then off the bench was Dylan Harper at backup point. We saw Keldon Johnson again at backup wing, and then we saw Luke Kornet play off the bench, or he and Wemby played together for 3/4 of the game. For now, the reason why I say it could have been a 9-man lineup is because Lindy Waters did get a few minutes with these players at times. But again, I feel it almost feels like they're saving Waters' spot for somebody else, likely someone like Jeremy Sohan whenever he gets 100% healthy and back in the lineup, or someone like Kelly Olynyk. So again, it was mainly an 8-man rotation who played the most of the minutes. But then in the fourth fourth quarter, Coach Johnson pulled all the rotation players with just 2 minutes. With 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then from there, like all the reserve players kind of finished out the game for the Spurs, and they helped them get the win. So the Spurs' final preseason game will take place on Friday in San Antonio before the regular season begins next week.